Hey guys, how's it going? So today I'm going to go over a little bit about game engines because I know there's a lot of people here that are really new to game development and kind of just stumbled upon Unity or stumbled upon Unreal and just picked it because people say that it's the best engine or just because those are the two most popular. I'm going to go through a little bit of a tier list of my top engines and like why I think these are the best and why I think these other engines aren't as good. And let's see where everything lies up and see where, if you agree, if you don't agree, just let me know in the comments below. If you do agree, like this, comment, that's great. And otherwise just subscribe and let's get this tier list on the way. Okay, so as you can see here, we have a list of game engines, and some of them you probably never heard of, and they're new to me as well. But after some research into them, I can see exactly where I stand and why I stand there. And so first up is probably one that most of you have never heard of, called Godot Engine. So Godot Engine is a free and open source engine that was developed by Corona Labs, and it's really designed for some 2D games, and it's designed to be easy to use and come in strong for beginners. But it uses something called Lua, which is used in like Roblox scripting and stuff like that. It's a very simple scripting form. It's not necessarily a programming language. So what I would say is that it's very limited. It doesn't have any 3D support, and the community is okay, but it's not anywhere like big compared to the bigger game engines. It also has a limited overall support from the devs. And so where I'm going to place this is the D tier. I would say that it belongs there because it's it's not the best engine. I wouldn't go out of my way to learn it. There's plenty of other great first options out there. Next up, we're going to look at Construct. So Construct is a game engine that is, honestly, it's similar to, Corona in the way that it's very simple. It's made for beginners, and it's actually made to be a teaching tool for intro to like game development. Now, it uses visual scripting, so there's no coding or anything involved, and it can publish to a lot of the platforms that we have there. It keeps its regular updates, but there's one big catch, is that it's not free. There's a free version which really limits the scope of what you can do. If you want to access anything, you pay for any features. And so even though the payment is like $15 a year or something like that, very, very small, the fact that it's already a limited engine and then they make you pay for it anyway, it kind of throws me off a lot. Besides the fact that it's not designed to play on anything like PC or anything like that. It's designed for in-browser games. It's based completely in JavaScript, and so it's just the fact that you have to pay for something like that. Really turns me off to it. It has no 3D support. So what this is going to go in the F tier. So as you can tell, we're starting off strong. We got a D and an F, and so we're going to go on to Godot Engine. And so if any of you have used Unity for a while now, and you've seen some people on YouTube or you've looked into like different engines, you should have definitely heard of Godot. It is, probably up there with the top. It's like probably number 3 in Unity, Unreal, and Godot in popularity wise. And so, I don't have a lot of bad stuff to say about Godot. It is completely free and open source. That means like, no matter how big your game gets, you're never gonna have to pay Godot anything. It has 2D and 3D support. It has an active community, especially on YouTube. I can see like plenty of tutorials. I'm not a Godot user myself, but I feel like if I wanted to, there's so much support for me to just dive in there and get going. It's great for 2D games, and it uses GD script, which is really similar to Python. Straightforward naming. But you also can use C# and C++ if you figure out how to use that. You can integrate it well, and it's constantly updated by the devs. It's easy to understand, and it can integrate to most platforms. I do not have a lot of bad stuff to say about Godot. A lot of people that I see on YouTube, a lot of people that I've talked to, one being Heartbeast, he's into Godot, and it's really hard to say something bad about it. So I'm going to have to put Godot in the A tier. So there we go. We have our first A tier. Isn't that amazing? We are there. We are going up the ladder here. All right, and so here's another one, Game Maker Studio. And so a lot of people have used Game Maker Studio. I've heard a lot about Game Maker Studio as being like an intro to game making, and I don't see it as an issue. I think it's very, very straightforward for people who don't know coding and are scared to learn coding. that being that it's very simple and intuitive, easy to pick up, and there's a lot of documentation out there for if you want to learn about it. There's just a downside of obviously no 3D support, and it lacks just the general versatility of the bigger game engines like Godot and Unity and Unreal, and there's no coding involved. But that I see that as more of a limitation than a benefit, and so in my eyes, while it's not nearly as limited as Construct or what's the other one, Corona, I think that it belongs in the C tier here. Sorry to say, for any game maker fans, you might like it, but it's very limited. I don't know. All right, and so we're not going to touch these two big ones yet, because I think those ones are like the prize of the show. These are the two most popular. So next up, we're going to go to RPG Maker, which is very similar to Game Maker, but as you can tell by the name, it's probably obvious that it's limited to making RPGs. And beyond that, it's not just like RPGs. Like you can't make any kind of RPG. It's limited to like top-down 2D RPGs like Pokemon or Fire Emblem or something like that. And so the fact that it's limited to that, it makes it streamlined, right? So if that's what you definitely want to make, and you're new to game development and you don't really understand any of the other engines, and you're just really set on making an RPG, well then go ahead and use RPG Maker, because it's pretty straightforward. It's just I just don't like the limited scope. Another downside is that when you create things in RPG Maker, there's a lot of background checks. Like everything you make is a sprite, and so it has to check through everything. It's using a lot of extra processing power that it doesn't need to use. But it does have a decent community. It can deploy to mobile or computer devices, no problem. The only thing is that it does not have any versatility beyond just top-down RPGs, and so it has to fall beneath Game Maker Studio. Sorry to put it online with Corona here. No qualms with the Corona devs. I think RPG Maker belongs in the D tier, and it is what it is. Matter of fact, getting me onto the next engine. I would call it an engine, I guess, because you can make games in it, but Pygame, here we go, which is not really an engine. It's just literally a library for Python that you can create games. It has some codes, but it has some functions and everything that you can use, but it requires a lot of knowledge about Python. So if you want to make a complicated game, you're really going to have to understand coding to the max, right? Like everything about it. There's almost no help for the user. Beyond that, there's very limited resources online for, like, yeah, there's documentation, but tutorial wise, I would say there's a limited number of like tutorials for creating a game, like a big game, like there are in Unity, Unreal, Godot. It really lacks the resources, and just the fact that it requires such a deep understanding of coding for not a lot of return. I think it's good for people who want to learn coding over game development, right? And so I'm going to have to put this in the F tier, because it's not really usable for indie game devs. There's so many. Well, it is usable, but there's so many better options that I'm sorry, Pygame, you're going with Construct into the F tier. Bringing us to the stars of the show, we have Unreal Engine and we have Unity. And I just want to say that there's a reason that these two are the most popular. And maybe the reason that they're more popular is also like, why they're getting so much more funding to stay ahead of the curve in all these cases. I'm going to start with Unreal Engine. And that is because, obviously there's the new Unreal Engine 5 demo that's coming out, bringing the most, top of the line graphics. Best, like they have the lumen for lighting. They have so many different methods of improving and streamlining the graphics without like sacrificing processing power. Unreal has always been like a top choice, and is really used in a lot of AAA game studios to develop their games. There's the downsides, I guess, being it's not as beginner friendly, and it uses like advanced code. Like if you really want to get into it, you have to use C++, which is really pretty advanced to code a game. The benefit is they have blueprints for beginners to start creating games. You're not limited completely, but if you really want to get to a very developed game, big AAA quality game, which is I guess what you would create in Unreal, you will have to understand coding. Another benefit is you have free access to all these high quality realistic Quixel assets, which come with textures and models, like environments and everything. 3D mega scans, have you ever heard of that? It's very good. They have the best 3D graphics in the entire business. I don't have a lot of bad stuff to say about Unreal. I think that for what it is, and for the professional, game developer, or if you want to go work at a big game studio, it is what you need to be using. So I will say Unreal belongs in the S tier. There we go. We have our first S tier. No, I didn't put it there for no reason. We got our S tier. So on to the engine that I use. I guess it's one of the most popular game engines in the world for indie developers, and that is because it is very easy for beginners to pick up, very user friendly, and it's got a huge community and support for people. If you have a question, it's probably been asked there before, and answered on top of it. So like, the thing about Unity is that it's so easy for beginners to go on, and then it's so versatile that even if you're more expert and advanced, you can create a huge game. There's been countless blockbuster games created in Unity, with Unity, that are now considered among the, I wouldn't say AAA games, but top games that people have played. And it's not just 2D, although Unity has like the top of the line 2D graphics, 2D support. 3D is now like getting to be, I wouldn't say it's on par with Unreal 5, definitely not, but getting to be up there with Unreal 4. And there's only an issue with, like, sometimes it can be pretty CPU intensive. But another benefit is that Unity offers everything free up until you're making like $100,000 a year in revenue. And even then it's still relatively cheap. And so just the fact that Unity is so easy to use, and then so freeing and really easy to pick up, I think this is why it belongs in the S tier, and why these two obviously game engines are the two most popular game engines. It's not because no one doesn't know about the other ones. It's because everyone's talking about these two because they have made the most leaps and bounds in both the 2D and 3D spaces respectively. Obviously Godot is an A because it's newer. Obviously, it could be catching up to Unity. It could be up in the S tier, even in the next year. And so I do think these ones at the bottom, they kind of belong there. And I would say if you're a beginner and you're afraid of scripting, I wouldn't recommend starting with these. Yeah, you could if you're a kid or something. But the fact that there's so many resources available for Godot, Unity, and Unreal, and just the versatility of them, and that the fact that you can continue making games even as you progress from beginner to expert, and even release these games that are AAA quality games. I would say stick with one of these top three if you want to learn a new engine, and kind of avoid anything. But we have this nice B divide. Avoid anything below B, and embrace anything above B. So that's where I'm at. If you agree with me, leave a comment, leave a like, let me know. If you disagree with me and you have something to say about, if you're like a Game Maker fan or a Construct fan, let me know. Let me know if I got some stuff wrong. I would love to know. Maybe I'll be using it. You convince me, but I doubt it, but it is what it is. And then, just make sure to subscribe and like. I'm probably going to start making, more retro remake games for people who want to learn some 2D game making stuff, or improve their portfolio for looking for like a job as an indie developer, either as a freelancer or at a studio. And so just like, subscribe, comment, leave your support, and I'll check you out next time. Thanks.